I go to YouTube and I try to find some vegan recipes other than the things that I normally make. And sometimes I buy all these ingredients to make a recipe, and for my taste bud, the recipe is trash. Just I'm gonna say it how I'm gonna say it. It's trash. But this recipe right here is really delicious. Hi, I'm Carmen, and this is a miscellaneous vegan where I share a little R&R, recipes, and reviews. And today's recipe is going to be a butter beans recipe. It's not mine. I'm going to link the recipe below, but you just want to follow the recipe to the T. And then when you make it the second time, then you can adjust with the seasoning and the spices that you prefer. This is my second time making this recipe, so I added a little bit of more vegetable broth, but follow along. I promise you, you're going to love this butter bean recipe. And if you haven't seen my video on how to make this bread here, and we're learning how to make bread here in this channel, I'm gonna link that video below. So you're gonna want some bread, and then you're gonna make this recipe. So let's get into the kitchen and make this butter bean recipe. If you haven't done so yet, make sure you like and subscribe for recipes and reviews in New York City and around the world, and for Coaching Mondays. So these are the ingredients that you will need. As you can see, most of my ingredients, I purchased it from Whole Foods. But if you don't have a Whole Foods near you, just find these ingredients in your local supermarket. So you will need some lima beans. You may use the canned type, but I prefer fresh. And if you don't know how to make fresh lima beans, I do have a recipe. I will link it below, and just follow along. It's very simple. The recipe calls for 2 tablespoons of sun-dried tomatoes chopped, but I use more than 2 tablespoons. But to make this recipe so much easier for yourself, it's better for you to just get all the ingredients that needs to be chopped and take your time in making sure that you chop them. Just a pro tip, when you are chopping garlic, you want to mash it first so that all the flavors will come out when you chop it. Okay, so just go ahead and chop all the ingredients that need to be chopped to make your life so much easier. And then once you finish chopping all those ingredients, you just put them in a small bowl, but you layer them in the way that you're going to place them into the pot, right? So the first thing that I'm going to use is the garlic. So that will be the last item that I place into my little bowl. So now let's head into the kitchen to finish prepping what we will need. And the next item that you want to prepare is your, what is this? This is how I make my vegetable broth. I do not purchase vegetable broth anymore. I make it myself with the Better Than bouillon. I add it into hot water. I stir it up, and that is my chicken broth, vegetable broth, whatever the recipe calls. That's what I use. And also you want to open up your can of coconut milk. I still have not gotten a can opener. Hopefully one day I will get to that, but it's not a priority. So you measure out your coconut milk, and then you store the rest. You can use the rest to add it if you want it more milkier, more watery, but just follow the recipe, and then later on you adjust. And here we are ready to start cooking. Now I'm going to turn on my pan, and I turn it on to medium to low heat because this is the extremely pan. And if you haven't seen my unboxing and review about it, make sure you check it out. I'll link it below. I do love using olive oil versus extra virgin olive oil. Avocado oil, I mean, as you saw. It's better for cooking. So as you can see, I'm putting in my, the garlic, and a little bit of the shallots went in, but it's fine. You just stir it up, you cook it up for a few minutes, and then you add the rest of the ingredients that was in that bowl. You saute it so that all the flavors can start coming out. And I really love these pans because you want to begin your cooking at medium temperature or low heat, and it cooks pretty quickly. It's like a Dutch oven. You can use it as a Dutch oven and your food doesn't burn. As you can see that I'm still sauteing the garlic, the onions, the what is it, the sun-dried tomatoes, and they're cooking well and they're not burning. So now I'm adding the seasoning that it requires. Remember to check out the recipe below so that you can have it all lined up. So here's where you're gonna add the pepper, you're gonna add the salt, whatever, the spices. Some of the spices are gonna be added here, not everything, okay? So we're just adding the pepper. And that's about it, because you don't want to add the salt just yet, because you want to make sure you add all the ingredients and then you adjust to taste once you finish adding everything, because it can turn out too salty if you add the salt right now. So just wait until you add all the ingredients and then you adjust to taste. So now we're going to move on to adding the main course, which is the lima beans. So remember that the lima beans is better if you use it fresh, but if you can't use it fresh, go ahead and use the can. But it's very simple, it's very easy to make. Again, I will leave the link below so that you can see. I'm using half of the portion that I made because I'm going to use the other half for another recipe. But it's very easy to make. But you just want to plan ahead on what you're going to make, right? What you're going to cook. Because you don't want to make lima beans and then have it sitting in the refrigerator and it's spoiled and you have to throw it out. So that's a waste of time, a waste of money, a waste of effort. And now we're gonna add the harissa sauce, right? That's 2 tablespoons. Make sure you have your ingredients ready, okay? So, because this is gonna cook pretty quickly. You add your 2 tablespoons. I added a little bit more than 2 tablespoons. But again, remember that this is the second time I'm making this recipe, so now I'm adjusting based on what I would like. But just follow the steps that I'm doing right now. Follow the steps that she did in her video. But this is how you want to make it. You want to follow the recipe and then adjust later on, because this recipe is really delicious. You're really gonna like it, and I would not put it here on my channel if I did not agree, because there's a lot of vegan recipes that you will find and it's not all that great. You went and bought the ingredients and it's completely terrible. Okay, so here we have added the vast majority of the ingredients, but now let's start adding the rest, right? So the next ingredient that we're going to add now is the coconut milk. So you go ahead and pour in the coconut milk, then you're going to add your vegetable broth. And here is where you can decide whether you want to add more water or not, but that's your choice. But just follow as I'm going. So I just added the nutritional yeast and the onion powder. I believe it's onion powder. Let me go double check the recipe. No, it's garlic powder. Okay, so it's garlic powder that I just added. It was the nutritional yeast and the garlic powder. You stir it up a little and then you let it boil for a little bit so that it could soak up the the liquids. Let it thicken up, and then you just stir it so it won't stick to the bottom, but eventually it will start thickening up. And that is when you want to make sure you scrub, make sure you get all the food, stir it up. And here's where we're going to add our kale, right? So we're using dinosaur kale. If you're vegan, you more than likely have this in your refrigerator every day, all week. This is the type of kale I personally like, which I really love that she used ingredients that I already use. So here we have some dino kale, and that's it. You don't need to keep cooking it. Depending on your pot, well, this extreme of pot, I do not need to continue cooking. At this point, I will turn off the heat, and then I will put the lid on, let it simmer for a little bit, because it's going to continue to simmer while I get the last ingredient, which she did. She wanted to make it look a little fancy. I did the same thing. I got some of the coconut milk and drizzled it over the top to make it look cute and fancy. She also added a little bit of the harissa sauce on top, so I too did the same. And there you have it, guys. You have your butter bean recipe with dinosaur kale, looking real delicious. Now let's head over to the living room and enjoy this delicious dinner. It's still hot. So this is really good. This is, like I mentioned, this is the second time I made it. And this time I added more vegetable broth because I wanted it to be more soupier. As you can tell, this is going to be for me. I'm having half now and the rest tomorrow for lunch. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. The recipe tastes extremely delicious. Comment down below if you already made this before, if you've seen the recipe that I linked before, because this is like going to be like a staple in my recipe list, because I go to YouTube and I try to find some vegan recipes other than the things that I normally make. And sometimes I buy all these ingredients to make a recipe, and for my taste bud, the recipe is trash. I'm gonna say it how I'm gonna say it. It's trash. But this recipe right here is really delicious. So I have linked her video below. She also is a YouTuber. She also is vegan. So go ahead and check her channel out. But this is one of the recipes that I have found to be really delicious compared to a lot of other vegan options out there. So I'm going to continue to give you guys some new recipes from other viewers, from other YouTubers, and my own recipe. So make sure you subscribe if you haven't done so. And always remember, sweeties, be real, not perfect. Bye.